Welcome to the Visualcast. I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visualcast is a hybrid podcast where we interview some of the most unique, interesting, high-level, and exciting artists from all over the world. Entering into Season 2, we will be starting a monthly live stream to our paid subscribers. To join in on the live stream with Q&As, polls, and some surprises, click on the join button below. Your subscription will massively support our channel and bring us further to creating a community of like-minded individuals who love, create, and immerse themselves with the visual arts and the visual world. For those unable to join financially, don't worry. The episode, like all of our episodes, will be available on Thursdays for everyone to watch. And if you want to support us, like and subscribe and share with anybody you think will enjoy the podcast. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Now, without any further ado, here's the Visualcast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Alrighty, welcome to the Visualcast. I'm joined today by a super special guest, someone who I actually have been following for a really, really long time. Big fan of. Love their work. Have loved seeing them kind of progress in their career and do quite amazing and spectacular things. Without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Andrew Hunter, aka The Void.
Hey, how we doing? Thanks
good.
for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. We've definitely been trying to get this going for a while. You are a very busy man, and I'm happy that we managed to do it.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like it's been like 2 years at least.
At least
that we've been talking about it. So
you were one of the first people I wanted on the pod. Just because like I said in the intro, like I'm a big fan, and you do crazy cool shit. But you were always too busy for me. Now that I'm a successful podcast and famous.
That's exactly what it is. I was waiting for you to get famous.
I think we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, but I'm happy that the bar is set low. Well, while we kind of get acquainted with your work, we're gonna look a little bit at your Instagram and kind of see the cool and awesome stuff that you do. I'd love to ask you. You've mentioned. I think it was on your website, maybe on your about page. You are an experience engineer. I'd love to kind of like, what does that mean to you? Like, break it down. Like, where does that come into play with the work and the art and the systems that you do and you build?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I feel like I have multiple components to my professional life. I'm a software developer, I'm a UX designer, I'm a VJ, I'm a content creator. And I think experience engineer is kind of a term that I came up with to best describe, all of those, like the center of all those things. I like making software, but I like making sure it's something that people enjoy using.
Dude, this is
fun.
sick. Sorry, this is sick.
I have to give credit to Theron Prey from Synesthesia for that.
Shout out Theron.
It was me and him running that one. Yeah.
But just that change is just like
nailed it, and definitely one of those happy accidents too. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And so I think when I say experience engineer, it's it comes down to designing and building experiences for people, whether it's a live platform with 6 massive projectors or it's on a native app on your phone. I think it's all the same principles when it comes to how people interact with things and what they find value in. And so I'm curious if that label actually makes sense to you, because I think that's the only thing I could really come up with that both describes the coding side of things that I really enjoy and also the visual side of things I really enjoy.
Totally, dude. I mean, you're one of these unique artists that is kind of more than an artist, like, and I, the word artist is kind of a little bit of a passé word, I think, these days, but just in the terms of like, you can produce beautiful content, high octane visuals, you know how to perform with those visuals, you know how to do those visuals. That's like, the artistry or whatever, the performance art, and,
Right.
Mixed with like the good eye and everything. But then you also know how to like code everything and make everything and utilize those things to create experiences, right? I think an experience engineer is a really good term for you. And I think that your work kind of speaks for it. You know what I mean? Like, especially where you are now with your career and kind of like the milestones that you've managed to achieve, and the different heights that you've managed to attain. Like, you really have kind of like, you're an engineer, right? For sure. What are you engineering? You're engineering visuals. You're engineering content. You're engineering, applications, web, all these kind of things. But you're focusing on the experience of it all, right? Like, am I doing cool visuals? Am I, doing projection mapping and making it immersive and interactive, and, and then obviously web design and UX and UI are all kind of like experiences as well. Ooh, I love this one too. This is a classic. It's a classic.
Yeah, that is a classic.
It's a classic.
A Wyatt Flanders riff right there.
Who is it? Who is it?
Wyatt Flanders. He's a bit of a shader toy legend.
Okay.
But yeah, he's got the brilliant feedback math brain, and then a lot of my best feedback patches have just been, using his math to bring it into something like Resolume and make it into an actual shader and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
No, please.
Go ahead.
Are you? Oh, I didn't even know. Are you? You're also a painter. Like, that's something that I'm actually just finding that out now. I don't know why I didn't know that. Did you paint that one in back of you as well?
Yeah. So what you just had up was like a work in progress of the one that's over my shoulder right here.
Oh shit! Look at that. Yeah, like it's a little darker. Wow. Yeah. I think I knew that. I think I did know that about you, but I didn't fill that into my mind in this thing. So yeah, I mean, like, experienced engineer, here we go, I mean, like, what is painting if not that? Did you do live painting as well in shows?
Yeah, I've done some live painting. I've always told people that painting is my outlet to not be on a computer.
Oh dude, I'm so jealous you have that. I can't even express, like,
I think it's super healthy to have an outlet like that, whether it's, I don't know, woodworking or painting or whatever.
Sure.
Riding my bike is like another one that I'd put up there with painting. But yeah, honestly, I feel like a lot of it, what it comes down to is just tension, whether you're building tension or removing tension. I feel like that's what a lot of the experience comes down to for me. Oh man, we're in the deep cuts. This is
dude. I love it. This is where it's
all
at.
This is the very beginning of when I was playing around with Mandelbulb, and I was like, this is pretty cool. You can just generate stuff with a computer.
The humble origins of the Mandelbulb. It's like anybody who could get over the, like, what the fuck is this software? Why is it so hard to use? And then produce things with it is like, they're gonna be a career VJ. Like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna make it.
Yeah, you gotta love, like, the pain of trying to figure out a UI. I think maybe that's why I gravitated towards Blender as well.
Well, I mean, the Blender UI now is like pretty normal, but back in the day, that UI was like, what the hell is going on here? You remember Blender 2 to Blender 4 was just like gray, and like it was so ugly, and it was just like, it was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern is all the stuff hidden away behind menus and submenus that
for sure
you have to be in a certain view mode and then press a certain key combination, and then it's an amazing software. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
could not be more thankful for it, but
No, it's the best. It's the best, and I do feel like now it's at that point of like modernized software where, yeah, there are still a little bit of quirks, but it does kind of work the same way as whatever, like any kind of DCC or like close to any kind of DCC. They're all kind of fading into the same,
right,
even like a
right.
node base, even like Houdini kind of has all these menus now and is so contextual. Yeah, obviously you're focused on like the node graph, but it's like, there's still all these hidden menus and all these hidden, modes and whatever.
Right.
It's
It's rewarding to those that spend the most time into it. I realize
for
that
sure
it's less about your abilities and your vision and stuff like that, more about how much time have you spent
in the how much
fighting
experience do
the
you have?
program.
For sure, for sure.
Right, right.
I think the only software that I could think of that's like, no menus, no thing is Touch Designer, and then, like, you still have like your parameter pages with all your parameters and everything, but like there's no like mode or menu or anything. It's just a lot of scrolling in and out of different things.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
find your way around. Even synesthesia, like, okay, yeah, you could be in the scripting in the IDE, but like most of it is menus and like a program like you would
Right.
expect from
Right.
anything. Well, okay, so your work speaks for itself. You made a very good case for the experienced engineer. I like it. And I kind of like want to go a little bit, to your origins, kind of like get a little bit,
Cool.
to know you a little bit more. You grew up in Denver,
Mhm.
and tell us a little bit about that. Like what it was like growing up there. It's very high up, very hard to breathe there, and kind of maybe shifted or guided into a place of like any early on inspirations from where you grew up, maybe somebody in your family, etc. And how did you find yourself kind of like in this kind of like space of creativeness? Did it come later?
Yeah.
Did it kind of always breed in your life?
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair multiple questions. So yeah, I grew up in Denver. I was really into nature and going to the mountains and stuff when I was younger. My dad, I was a big Boy Scout. I go camping almost every weekend, stuff like
Oh,
that.
cool.
Which I think, I'll get to this in a little bit, but I think that kind of started some of my curiosity when it comes to just being creative and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I grew up in Denver and then moved to the East Coast into Washington D.C. when I was 13,
Oh, okay. Young.
14, right around there. Yeah. So I went to elementary school and middle school in Colorado, and then pretty hard change moving to the East Coast, just
Yeah.
with the weather and the different culture and all that stuff. And it was about in high school that I started getting into just drawing my favorite Final Fantasy characters and just the stuff that teenagers do when they're excited
Right.
about something and want to be creative, but they don't really know how. I remember tracing some of the guidebooks I had for PlayStation games just because I thought the art was so cool.
That's cool. I love
Um,
it.
and so, moving on from there, I ended up working for both the video production team at my high school and
Huh.
being the head graphic designer for the
Wow.
newspaper.
Wow.
So my school had like a strict policy, I guess, that you weren't allowed to do both those things at once.
Ah.
And so I remember going with my parents to basically the counselor and the principal and stuff and being like, this policy's dumb. Like, why can't he do both? And so I think that's like where the two parallel things I was really interested in kind of started. Graphic design, I was a big fan of the drawing, the static art, all that stuff. And then video, I was also really interested in. The video team, I guess, was more of like a news broadcast than anything. But going from there, going to college, one of my best friends, we both got into Drexel in Philadelphia, and he was pretty set on going into video, and I was like this close to becoming a video major, and then I think last minute I just decided that I wanted to do graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a little piece of me that was doing it out of spite because my parents wouldn't let me take art classes in high school.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so I think there's a little piece of me that, it felt like the forbidden fruit, or,
Right.
something like that.
That's so funny.
But, I ended up going into graphic design. And so that's really where, all of my knowledge of Adobe products and composition and
Mm-hmm.
color theory and all those things were learned.
Mm-hmm.
And even painting, I had to take a year of painting, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for about 5 years or 6 years after graduating. And it was some freelance work, and then I was doing that's like pre-press flights, which is like taking for like a newspaper. It's basically like taking the PDFs that get generated by the design team and then
Uh-huh.
making sure they're good to be printed and doing all the technical stuff for them to be printed and then handing them off to a printer.
Huh. Interesting.
Which, it's interesting, but not what I was expecting
It's like
my life would be
producing.
like
It's almost like
after.
producing something, or like, you're not really. It's like
Yeah,
creative, right?
it's not really creative at all. It's really just technical.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a picture that was, not the, pixels per inch was wrong or whatever, and then
Right.
you'd have
Right.
to
Right.
send it
Right.
back. But really, it was just, making sure the PDFs were good to go, had crop marks, and the right color space and all those sorts of things. And so I think that's when I started kind of getting fed up with graphic design, and why I
Mm-hmm.
started being like, I want to learn something more practical and something that, had me creating again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so my third job at a newspaper, because I was doing the pre-press flights, like everything was structured in the timeline. So, I have something to do at 9 a.m., something to do at 11 a.m., and then nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do until 2:30. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And so, there was like big gaps of time in my day where I couldn't even do anything because it wasn't the deadline for the print.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brother was into coding, and he got me, he told me to learn JavaScript and web
Huh.
development and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And so that's kind of where I started picking up programming, is just taking online courses and building dinky little
Interesting.
apps and stuff on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And
So just
so I think,
before you get into kind of like that final form, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about like, so when you were a kid and you were getting into like drawing and things like that, was there like, what was it that made you pick up the pen? Like, was it you were trying to emulate somebody? Was there somebody in your life that kind of like pushed you in that direction? I always find it really fascinating when there's like, when it's natural versus when, not even versus, just like, it's interesting to know where that came from, like that initial
right,
spark of like being interested in that thing. You could have picked up a table tennis racket or whatever the fuck. You could have done a million other things. I don't know. That's not like a
true.
big. I just watched Marty Supreme, so it's in my head. But like, yeah, like what was it? Do you remember? Do you have any inkling of that?
I don't know if there was like a specific thing. There definitely wasn't, no one in my family is really that creative. Um, I don't think I really had many people in my life that were creative. In high school, a lot of my friends were musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of, how I got so into music. But in terms
Mm-hmm.
of making, visual art, I think there was just certain artists I saw where I was just like, wow, like MC
Mm.
Escher is a great example.
Right. Right.
Just being able to like, force your brain to really analyze what you're looking at, and kind of, you know, you have to second guess yourself and be like, oh wow, like the perspective. Wait, what's going on here? Like, I think that kind of stuff started getting me interested in it. And the Ralph Steedman, who does all the did the illustrations for
For
the
Floyd, Pink Floyd? No.
yeah, he did
He.
some for Pink Floyd. He did the poster for the Orlando Bloom movie where he's doing all the drugs, the Hunter S. Thompson one. I'm drawing a blank right
Oh.
now. Fear and
Yeah.
Loathing.
Yeah. Fear and Loathing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I started seeing work from
Mm,
other artists like that, and I think that's kind of what set me down the path of like, oh, there's an alternative art form that
mm.
is also interesting and, not the traditional what you would see at art museum.
Right,
Um,
right, right, right.
yeah,
Like it just, I guess your mind's like expanding, right? Like you're just kind of like, okay, I've seen art at museums, I've seen art in books, and now all of a
right,
sudden there's like a whole other thing to explore. So cool.
right.
So your trajectory is kind of interesting because and I'll let you continue what you were talking about with your brother, but I just love that kind of like the not backwards, but like the falling in love with the creative aspect of your psyche and your experience, and then like shifting like really 180. I mean, like there is creativity in code, of course, like it's a
Right.
very big part of it, but like I feel like the learning aspect of code is very like there's a lot of like there's not a lot of creativity in it, right? It's a lot of just like
Yeah.
information and logic and structure. Um, so like yeah, like besides for your brother being into code, was there anything else that like that you felt was like necessary for you to learn this thing? Did you know about generative visuals at this point? Like were you kind of like in that
Oh,
sphere or not at all?
no,
Mm,
this was like 2014 or 15, maybe, maybe even before that. But I definitely learned to code probably 4 or 5 years before I even, saw a live VJ and like
interesting.
had it really land that it was like an art form that
Connected.
someone was running.
Right.
Right, right.
Interesting.
Um, and I think one of the biggest things for me is once I learned that you can make visuals with code. I think that's really what like made it click in my head of like, oh wow, you could do this on a very high level. Um, because it is a very left brain versus right brain thing, I think. But there is a level of creativity that comes with coding that it's I tell people I love painting because of the flow state, and I think with coding there's also a flow state. It's just a different type of
Definitely.
flow state. you
Definitely.
know it's in terms of making visuals, it's like, oh, what happens if I subtract this number from the output texture? Like what if the output number is negative? Like that's pretty
Right.
weird. And then your graphics card interprets it in a strange way, and you're like, oh shit, like I never would
That
have
looks
thought of
cool.
that on my
Right.
own. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the flow state with, and we were talking a little bit before we got on about like vibe coding and all that. Like I have lost hours of sleep just because I'm just so in it. Like that, that feeling you're in Blender, whatever, you're in touch, you're in whatever program you're in, and all of a sudden it's 6 in the morning and you're like, what the fuck? Like, but you're so in it. I've been getting that so
Yeah.
much with Claude Code just because of I think I think it's the reward aspect of seeing something working or finding a solution, and then mixed with the natural language, which natural language is inherently creative, right? Like you're writing,
Right.
it's like creative writing. So the creative writing with that fast result of like blah, 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 things coming in, that there's like this crazy flow state that I've been getting into that's super rewarding. I still don't really know how I'm gonna make any money from it or like actually make it into like a viable thing, but who cares? Like we never do things that we like to do because we're gonna make money from them. I hope. Um,
That's
but
why we're
sorry,
VJs, right?
that's what we're VJs exactly, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
so
I think vibe coding is great because like I think the biggest hurdle for most people is like learning the new language and understanding the syntax and reading what the compiler spits out when there's an error and things like that. And I think vibe coding, it just dissolves that barrier basically.
yeah,
Like the only thing stopping you from making anything is having ideas.
yeah.
Um,
And there's still
yeah.
there's still a monetary like entry point at this point, but that's going to be with everything, even with art, right? You still have to pay for your
Right.
softwares, and so. But let's digress. So your brother introduces you to coding, and you kind of you fall in
hmm
love with it right away. Is there like a little bit of a what about it like kind of struck you about it? Coming from this like
So
drawing, I can't even I
yeah.
don't even
So
yeah.
I think the natural transition was, I was focusing on it was called front end development. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
exist anymore, especially with
Right.
vibe coding, but
Right.
it's basically, how the web page displays and how you interact with it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The data coming in and out is maybe was a concern, but not usually. It was, purely aesthetic. And so I think I got really hooked
Hmm.
on it because you could, you know, code an
Design.
animation,
Mm-hmm.
or a design, or one
Mm.
of the first things I made was like an interactive chart widget, to track weight loss and stuff.
Mm.
Um, and I think just the visual feedback and, like you said, the reward for
Mm.
you know diving into code for hours and then finally figuring out that problem, where that
Yeah.
missing semicolon is or whatever,
Right.
and then opening the browser and seeing it all just there, like it, that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Um, it's no different than turning a projector on and seeing something you made in your bedroom,
Totally. Totally. Or like hitting
on a massive
render,
scale.
right? Or just like,
Right.
you're kind of like playing with your network or your shader, and like you said, you change a number here and there, and it just all of a sudden looks
Right.
like happy
Yeah.
accidents or whatever.
In the front end code, it's so instant. So it's, there's no compiling. I didn't learn a compiled language for years.
Yeah.
It's not back end where it's, only about data moving around or
Mm-hmm.
security or whatever it is.
Mm.
So I think that's really what got me hooked. And so from there, I just started applying to different web agencies around Philadelphia, and then eventually landed a job coding email templates
Oh my God. Really?
for
That's
yes,
wild.
for this web agency, doing the old school tables and everything, and
That's
you
wild.
know checking them on different devices and an Internet
Right.
Explorer 5 or whatever it was. That's what I did for about 6 months until they started trusting me with PHP and Drupal and all those horrific things. Um, yeah, so I think from there, I really enjoyed the coding, and once I started experiencing it on a commercial level and at a corporate level, I was a little
Mm-hmm.
more disillusioned from it, maybe. But
Mm.
obviously, the salaries for an engineer is much higher than for a designer.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to complain, when I was making more money than I'd ever made as a graphic
Mm.
designer. But I think, it's when I found synesthesia and when I figured out what, fragment shaders are and stuff, that's
Mm.
when I really started realizing that the coding experience actually has like a big place in visuals. Because for a while, I mean, you scrolled back, you saw the Mandelbulb renders, you saw, the old school After Effects, Jonathan Singer inspired sort of things.
Shout out.
And so, yeah, so a lot of it, for a good year and a half, I was just doing pre-rendered stuff. And then once I realized that you could do stuff live with code, I think that's really where it took off for me.
Interesting. So, it's very fascinating. I guess okay. So when you found, what I want to ask is, how did you find synesthesia? Or like, was synesthesia the first thing that you found, like in terms of like coding visuals, like scripting and things like that, or was it a little?
I think I saw shaders in Touch Designer first, and it's a shader. The way like a shader is programmed and the way it runs is like the exact opposite of how every other coding language works.
Right.
You don't have any awareness of like what else is going on in the shader or anywhere else on the screen
Mm.
besides maybe grabbing the last frame or something.
Uh
It's
huh.
not like, I did this operation and now I have this value for every
Right.
single pixel. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Um, so I think when I first saw him in Touch Designer, I was really overwhelmed and kind of just like, oh, I'm not touching that. Um, and I was using a lot of Resolume at the time, and I'm not quite sure how I found synesthesia. But I think once I popped open some of the code and basically, you just start tweaking with the magic numbers and seeing how it affects the scene and stuff. That's where I first started
You
being
got
like,
hooked.
oh, like yeah, it's not as hard as it seems just because it's some crazy looking code that you've never written before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's just a matter of how you're thinking about the program.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but once I started realizing like, oh, I could take the texture output of this random thing I just made and plug it into, the material for this Ray March, I think that's when, it all started clicking for me.
Interesting. And I guess we kind of skipped a little bit over it, but how did you get into VJing? Like, how did you even find that aspect? Your graphic design in school, and then you kind of get into coding. Where's the catalyst for finding out about visuals and that whole world?
Yeah. So funny enough, it was at a Tipper and Friends. I think that
So
second.
surprising.
I
No, I'm
know
just kidding.
it's
I'm
so
kidding, I'm kidding.
cliche. I think it was the second Swanee they ever did.
Nice.
I was in the pit with my friend, and it was maybe the second night, and I was standing there watching the visuals, and it just kind of clicked in my brain where I was like, oh, this is not as hard as it looks, Like,
I love it. I love it.
I have all the skills. I think that's really what hit me is, I'd spent a lot of time in After Effects and Premiere and Photoshop and
right.
All
like
those things.
you knew what you were seeing. You knew how to do it, because it's like motion
Right.
graphics or like whatever design like abstract design
Right.
is like, right. It's like you kind of have that. Interesting. So you just wanted to do it right away? Like, did you pick it up right away?
I think the first thing that was going through my mind was, all right, how can I recreate something I just saw?
Gotcha.
I think, yeah, and so I think some of the very first renders were extremely busy and not very well conceived and stuff like that. But it was mostly about putting pen to paper, so to speak. I was just really just trying to create a clip that I thought was as intricate and had good movement and stuff like that I saw at Tipper and Friends. And so from there, I think it just kind of became about me posting stuff to my Instagram. And I was, at the time, I had a friend who was really into DJing, so people would just come over to my house, and I would just play stuff on a little projector I had in my basement, and
hell yeah,
we would just hang out and stuff. And so I feel like from there, it kind of it's just the slow progression of, all right, well, now I have the Resolume license, so like maybe I could do some stuff live, like maybe I should get a controller. And I remember buying my first APC40, the make ones that were
yeah, the metal
and weighed like 15 pounds and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, once it kind of all just felt like something that was for fun and I was doing as a hobby until the Rust Music, like a music label up in New York City, they asked me to help run visuals for one of their shows. And so I think it was around then where I was like, oh, like, yeah, okay, I'm getting some gigs. They were, I don't know, paying $150 or, something, whatever. Right. But it was just more about being excited to actually show people that weren't just my friends what I was up to,
For sure. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I guess from there, it's just kind of like the history is speaks for itself. I mean, you pretty fast we're starting to play the same shows that you got inspired by.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful kind of like full circle. I hope I'm sure you realize that and appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
So I guess once you kind of like fall into that, what's the right word? A void of visuals. And then I didn't set that up. I just as I was saying it, I'm like, oh yeah. Once you fall into that void of visuals, they're really. I was just talking to Alon. His episode's coming out really soon, and like the kind of like he's not like such a live artist, right? Like he's much more of a just a content designer, whatever. He's a fucking genius, but like he's not like performing as much. And then we were talking about like that feeling of performing, right? Like the performance aspect of VJing is probably akin to like being I don't know, like a DJ. I don't even think it's akin to being a DJ, but it's more like a live artist performer, like, and not even just like one instrument. You're paying like 10 instruments, But that instant feedback that you get from, obviously seeing the stuff working, but then the audience interaction, the audible gasps, or like just like the homies hanging out at the front of house being like, whoa, there's something special that is not like, that is not that is hard to replicate in other art forms, and especially in like the graphic design / visual / content world, where and I'd even go into like maybe even like filmmaking in general, where it's like there's a pre-production, there's a production, and there's a post-production. And in film, there's obviously like, whatever, conceptualization. And I guess in design there is too, you have like, mood boards and whatever. And then you release it, and then you get the feedback, and then, maybe you'll get praise or whatever. But it's like this whole kind of like very long form experience where the flow state aspect is like completely devoid of, feedback and praise and even like devoid of like the original conception, right? Like you're in the flow state when you're in your 3D program or in your After Effects or whatever, and then you're not anymore. And like when you're VJing, you're kind of like simultaneously performing while coming up with ideas, while pre, post, production all in one, and you're in that flow, hopefully, ideally, and you're getting that instant feedback. There's like, it's very unique, and I think that a lot of people that kind of like get the opportunity to do it once or twice at a place that's not just like their home with their homies, it doesn't have to be a big venue. It could be like a club or whatever. It could be something small or like a wedding or something. But like that feeling is very captivating and not addicting, but like, like you want to be part of it. You want to do it again and again. Was that kind of an experience that you felt as well?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely addicting. I don't think it's. I think just the whole process, start to finish, is what the addiction is, not just the actual live performance. To me, like VJing comes down to like setting a vibe and deciding what the mood is gonna be. I think the DJs or the musicians or whatever, they have a massive amount of control over it, but as humans, I think. Even dark and scary music, if you pair it with some really nice light visuals, like your brain is gonna kind of push towards feeling like, oh, it's not that dark and scary. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And
vice versa.
Sort of like subliminal. Right. There's some sort of subliminal messaging thing involved. And so, I like to think of the live performance as like jumping out of a plane, because. You can do all the prep in the world, but like once you're out the door, like you better hope that parachute's ready to go, and like there's no stopping, there's no being like, fuck, I gotta slow down for a minute, like can we start over? It's just once you're going, you're going.
It's such a good analogy, dude, because it's like if you pack your parachute well, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if you get your shit.
And I played many shows where I prepped 6 weeks ahead of time, and I went into it being like, wow, like I am so ready for this. And I've played just as many shows where I prepped 3 days ahead of time, and I go into it being like, oh my god, like please let me just get through the next hour or two. But at the end of the day, it's I think the instant reward, like you were saying, really makes it worth it. And the social media feedback is always nice to see after the fact, once your brain is kind of reset a little bit and stuff. But I don't know, there's just something about picking the mood and kind of communicating what you want to communicate to people on a mass level, that I think it's just, there's nothing like it I've ever found. And I want to say that I'll probably never a VJ again at some point in my life, but if the opportunity pops up, it's hard for me to say no, you know what I mean? Just because the more I've done it, the more I'm like, wow, the 300 person show is just as powerful as the 3,000 person show or the 30,000 person show.
Definitely. There's more, the 30,000 person show is just more pressure, but the feedback and the feeling is very similar because it's
Right.
like you said, it's the
Right.
vibe. You can feel it when it's tangible, you know, when there's a flow, when everything's working. Those moments of like everything coming together, you know, music and visuals and lighting and lasers and, you know, design, everything, and the dance floor's popping, you know, like when those moments happen, is really not. And sometimes they're few and far between. You know, you could have I've done hundreds of shows, and not all of them have those moments. I will say that like every show that I've ever done, there's a moment where I am in the flow with myself and I feel good. It could be mixed with
Yeah.
like a lot of different things, and it could be very fleeting, but there's always that feeling when like there's like a moment, you know, that like sometimes it lasts for a long time, sometimes it's short, but like there's a moment where like, I did it, I'm great, you know, like
You're,
you
you know
know?
you're flying and you just feel the wind in your hair sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it
Yeah.
like gets broken by whatever, the thing crashing or stuttering or whatever the fuck, you know, or whatever.
Your screen falls off the table from the bass vibrations. That's
Yeah,
happened to
for
me
sure,
far too many times.
for sure.
But I mean, I think a part of it for me too is just the content.
Mm,
I think like as VJs, the amount of power we have, it's like a little scary. You know, especially with so many influential people in the audience, whether they're under substances or you know they're just feeling a type of way or they're really
mm,
connected with the music. You know,
mm.
there's a lot that goes into it, and so I think being able to just communicate a message that I feel strongly about makes it. That's like the other half of why it's so appealing to me.
What do you how do you convert that feeling from something so abstract as, you know, as visuals? I guess LEDs is a little bit different because you do have like a really proper screen that you can kind of express yourself with content, but like you're a big projection mapper, you know, which is, you know, my bro.
Hmm.
How do you get that, how do you attain that level of influence from, you know, seemingly just moving images and shapes and colors?
I think a lot of it has to do with content. I've definitely like studied the psychology of like vision and how we process images and all those things. And I think it just really comes down to like the presentation and like our brains are really really good at trying to attach to something that it thinks it recognizes.
Hmm.
So like I don't know if you're familiar with pareidolia, but that's like a
Yeah,
great
of
example.
course.
That's like you know seeing faces and things for people that don't know what it is. And so I think there's a lot you can do with just you know very subtly like putting a face in somewhere. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and so you know something that I tend to revisit time and time again, and I probably did it a little bit too much for a while and had to ease off, but was just nature and the earth.
Mm,
I
mm,
include, you know, there was a while where I included like a render of the Earth spinning from outer space in almost every
mm.
set because I think it's.
Cool.
I'm not sure if you've heard "The Pale Blue Dot" by Carl Sagan, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, it's something I listen to, you know, time and time again, and I think that's the kind of imagery where you know all it takes is one subtle thought for someone to kind of
Mm,
reshape their perception of things.
mm, mm.
And so I
Beautiful.
think you know as a VJ we have a lot of capability to kind of guide people's thoughts into things
Yeah.
that are positive, and, you know, and negative too if that's
Yeah.
really what you're looking
That's
to do.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, I don't think you can have the light without the darkness, and I have played multiple sets that people told me was a little too scary for them, but you know, at the same time, it's a little
Pussies. I'm just kidding. I'm
necessary.
kidding. I'm kidding.
um, but yeah, you know, for me, I think the content and you know the overall message
Mm,
is what it comes down to, and you know, a lot of it is abstract and you know squishy textures being pushed around and things like that, and I think that's you know live music wants that in a to a certain extent. But you know, being able to inject what you want and your own feeling into things, you know, where it fits, obviously, is really the reason why I do it. I think.
I love that. As you were speaking, I'm thinking of like, you know, like types of musics, you know, that are like I'm just thinking of like jazz or like, you know, prog rock, like with a weird time signature where it's like it's almost like noise of some sort. I mean, I guess electronic music as well, but I guess I'm super jaded to that. But like it's almost like noise in some way, right? Like it's abstract. There's like not really like such, in jazz especially, it's like super improvised. There's no like real, like it's not built like any songs, right? It's not like there's no chorus
Right.
and bars and things like that. It's like free flow, but it makes you feel something so special and so unique, right? That's like very heavily heavily influenced by the person playing, right? Like yeah, their intention for sure, but also like what is the key that they're in right now? What are the notes that they're playing? Are they letting the drums take over, or are they putting in the trumpets? Like it's like this ebb and flow that really is hard to explain why it makes you feel a certain way, but it does. And I think you're totally right when it comes to visuals, especially, and no shade, but we're talking, so especially when it comes to generative, visuals that are real time and whatever, live's maybe not the right word, but like real time visuals that are inherently coming from nature, just because of the way that math and science focused these kind of like patterns and shapes
Right.
and noises and simulations that we're kind of like experiencing. There's like this inherent kind of like ebb and flow in it. This is very second portion of the podcast. We kind of got into it very early. That's cool. I'm happy with that. I guess just to bring us a little bit back around. So when you're kind of like you're finding synesthesia, you're finding generative art. What do you feel was like the real, and I love this word, but the real catalyst of like, okay, I'm going to stop rendering and I'm going to focus fully on real time. And then how did that kind of like, can you map the progression of your career to that as well? Like did all of a sudden, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, did it kind of like help you?
Yeah. I don't, well, I could map it in terms of like, I think that's, when I learned how to start writing my own shaders, or how to even just manipulate ones that other people had already done. I think that's when it started clicking to me that it could be, something serious, and that, it could be an art form that I really take to, its terminus, or, however you want to explain it, until, I got sick of it and wanted to do something else. But I never really stopped rendering. I still render stuff in Blender all the time.
Cool.
Occasionally stuff in After Effects. I use a lot of footage that I record on my camera. And so I think really where like the synesthesia and the shaders and stuff fit in is I just started realizing that you could manipulate stuff live to the music in a way that you can't really do with a pre-render. And so, especially with like, the audio reactivity and stuff built into synesthesia, I think, that's where it started. Yeah, it started really like coming together as, it's sort of like what I was talking about with my interests in design and video and code. It's like the middle point where everything started combining, and I was like, oh, wow, this thing that felt really unrelated to that thing actually has like a pretty amazing crossover once you know how to apply them.
Right.
And so, I would encourage everyone to learn how to make their own, generative effects, because even if you're a strictly pre-render person, I think the doors you can open with just a little bit of, live rendering knowledge is enormous.
It's vast. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So how did you find synesthesia? Did you connect with Theron? I mean, you're the CEO of the company, is that right?
No, Theron is the CEO again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a transition a couple years ago, but
Gotcha.
so I don't remember like the exact thing that led me to it. It might have been just, seeing someone else say like, oh, Datagramma uses synesthesia, or like a Reddit comment, or, it was something where I was definitely tinkering with other software, and I picked it up and started learning. And I remember that first Swanee that I performed at, I think it was 2018. That's where I met Theron. And so, you met
him after you were using it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So my relationship with him started with me coming up to him, and, we introduced ourselves or whatever. And then I was like, hey, I use synesthesia. It's a great software. Could you fix this like one bug though? Like it's really annoying me. And he kind of was just like,
Oh no.
yeah, like sorry. And then I was like, no, I'm a developer. Like you could hire me and I'll just fix it for you. Like I just like want it done, you know? It's just frustrating. And so I ended up freelancing with them for a couple of years before working with them full time. But yeah, that was kind of my trajectory. Is
I love it.
Just being annoyed that there was a bug that hadn't been fixed, and I wanted to fix it.
That's awesome. So you're full time with them now still?
No. We parted ways, and lately I've been working on Patreon and working on that Noise Eraser app with Glass Crane.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out, Steven.
And then potentially looking at some full-time employment somewhere else. I'm not sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought you were still with them.
No, it's all good.
My bad. Tell us a little bit about your Patreon. Tell us a little bit about your, you have lots of loot packs, and I think we're gonna jump into your set right around very soon. But just before we get there, tell us a little bit about your offerings that people can find.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I was saying, I've been, I have hundreds and hundreds of shaders that I've been building for years, and I think working with the Tipper crew, there was enough live shows consistently where I never really had the time or the energy to want to put anything out publicly. So, now I'm at a point where Tipper's retired and I've kind of, taken a little break from shows and stuff. So I decided to start basically making everything that I made available to everyone. And so that, there's a lot of work involved when it comes to converting a shader from synesthesia to work in Resolum Wire, and then from Resolum Wire to Touch Designer. But I like having it available in all three softwares, because then it's really any professional VJ of any caliber can pick one up and throw it into their set and use it however they find it suitable. So yeah, I've been putting everything on Patreon and Gumroad, and the response so far has been great. I think I have 10 or so. Yeah, there we go. 10 or so plugins I just put out. There's a free one right there. I built a whole audio reactive setup in Resolum Wire. So, you can kind of do similar audio reactive stuff to synesthesia.
Super cool. I didn't see this one. I love it. Like a much better FFT. I mean, Resolum's FFT is pretty shitty.
Yeah, I can actually. So maybe after the performance part, I'll pull up Wire and we can look at some of the patches.
Hell yeah!
Because my goal was to basically, try and recreate some of that functionality that synesthesia has with the built-in audio variables. And it's, it's not hard to do, but it's really just doing some math on the FFT inputs. So, I'm hoping that people will find it useful and start making their own audio reactive stuff in Resolum.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome that you're kind of like shifting your attention. I think it's a smart thing to do. It's I mean, people know you, people appreciate your work. And there's just so many new like VJs and visual artists out there. It's insane. Like the amount of interest that people have in this field is just exploding.
And yeah, something I was talking I just had Tenorless stay at my house the other night for his last performance, and I love Joe. Something I was talking with him about is, even if I never felt compelled to play a live set again, I think putting out content, there's so much bad stuff out there, and like when you go to the Resolum Wire marketplace, I forget what it's called,
Juice Bar or something?
Juice Bar. You see a lot of stuff that's like, 50 euros, and it's just like a mirror tile plugin or something like that. And I see stuff like that, and it's, I can't imagine trying to wade through all that, trying to find stuff that's actually,
good,
really well done and thought out, and it has, tons of controls and unique looks and stuff like that. So I think that's really where my intention's been, is trying to make premium plugins that are, not overpriced, hopefully, that people can get a lot of mileage out of and find, lots of different looks and stuff like that.
Love it. And you have the UI and UX kind of understanding of like, human natural kind of like what they're going to click on and what things should be called and things like that. That's such a unique skill.
Right.
People forget about that, how important that is.
Yeah, and going back to the UX, like there's, I think the way that you want to navigate like a plugin, even between Synesthesia and Resolume is very different. And in a live setting, it's very different. And, you need to consider like, all right, we need this one button that's going to maybe make like a really intense pulse across the whole screen because that is something you need with certain types of music, or, really subtle, lights that fade across the whole scene because that's something you need in other types of music.
Right.
And so I think there's a huge UX component to it too that I find really, really exciting. Just, how do you smooth the control to make it, more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a more intuitive feedback.
Natural feeling or just making sense. No, for sure. I think it's funny. We have been talking about AI. We're going to talk about it more for sure, but it's that's like one of the things that is missing, and it's so classic because it's like, AI is nothing. It's just a fucking box of words. Like it doesn't mean it. It doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
Like it knows everything, but it doesn't know anything until you like, give it a context to have to pick its information. It's like an endless thing. It's a void. But it's understanding of like, I'm sure you've noticed this, like every, because it can make a front end super fast and super easy, but every front end looks the same. It's always purple and black or purple and white. And at the end of the day, I think that there's like fundamentals of UI UX that kind of like apply to pretty much everything, like a slider, a button. These are kind of things that have like just made themselves kind of like natural. But taking like the basic baseline like understanding of UI UX and making it into something that's like really like unique, like remember the first iPhone, like the way the animations worked and the way that you clicked, or even like the UI and UX of like Facebook or Instagram, like these are things that are so synonymous with like, this icon means this, or or if I press and hold, it's gonna do something. Those things, like AI is still not really like there yet, or doesn't have like the understanding of like, what is pretty, make me a pretty UI. Like, okay, sure, gold and gold and purple and black, very pretty. So I think that's like such an overlooked skill, and I'm sure that a few years down the line, the AI will be able to figure that skill out too. Seems like that's kind of like where it's going in terms of everything. Like everything will just be figured out by AI, but until then, and even then, having that knowledge is really important to guiding it. Okay, so right before we jump into your set, I wanted to talk to you about being just your kind of like your what was the what has been your experience, and obviously you're in like a kind of like a post no shows kind of like experience right now. You kind of taking a break, which is super commendable, but what was the feeling or experience like performing at these Tipper shows, and kind of like even like the last Tipper show, and just kind of like cultivating this audience, cultivating this vibe. You kind of came into, I guess 2018 is like really at the forefront, but like, around that time was when the whole Tipper experience shifted from the music to like the whole experience. It's not just about going to hear Tipper, it's about who's going to be doing visuals, what's the stage going to be like, the same kind of questions that are synonymous with like the psytrance scene, or like even like some niche music scenes. I think that Tipper kind of like really cemented it for the bass scene. Yeah,
Right.
so please tell us a little bit about that kind of like feeling and
Yeah,
experience.
that's definitely a good question. It's both extremely overwhelming and scary, and extremely enjoyable and fun, in equal parts, I would say. I think I kind of, got brought on as much as I did, at least initially, because Dave Veller and I really hit it off, and he's still one of my best friends that I talk to on a weekly basis and stuff. Um, not trying to knock myself, but I think I got pulled into a couple shows just because we liked each other, we work well, stuff like that.
Nice.
Um, and I think 2018 it was the first time I'd played like a big stage with a crowd of more than 1,000 people or something like that. Um, and so that one was definitely pretty scary and felt like I need to prove myself. And I think from there that feeling never disappeared. You know, playing before Datagramma and after Tenorless, it's stuff like that that it's like I don't know, the amount of nights where I was like, shit, I gotta like really do something special for this one. Just having so many other amazingly talented VJs on the roster that were brought back time and time again. It definitely was, you know, a pretty nerve-wracking thing, especially leading up to every show. There's so much anxiety about just having everything put together, and hoping you had like the special moments and stuff. Um, and then I think further as we got into it, we all started getting really comfortable with each other, and other Dave just knew the ins and outs of video production, even though he wasn't a video guy. He knew that you needed someone to set up the projectors and run everything that you would plug into. Like, he knew all of like the basically the major details of how things would work, and so it did get to a point where things felt very comfortable with him, where I knew he was going to handle things in a way. I knew he was going to make sure we had front of house space. I knew he was going to make sure we were fed and all the other things that go into playing a live show. And so I definitely, like, the last couple of years, every time I get the call about something new, I think it was just really exciting to be going back to somewhere and seeing all your friends again, and
Yeah.
doing the same thing. And then I will say that the times that they asked me to play with Tipper was always like a obvious yes, and then followed by like weeks of anxiety of being like, oh my god, like, why did I say yes?
Yeah.
And I think I tell people that like doing visuals for him is both the best and the worst thing you'll ever do. Dude, I mean, he's like an amazing guy, but when it comes to DJing, he's like really hard to follow in terms of
Very eclectic.
yeah, he has a lot of weird time signatures, and there's so many times where you think he's going to play 2 minutes of a track, and he pulls it out,
The
sees
second
his track, and then pulls right back into the first one and plays like the second 2 minutes. And it's times like that where you're like, oh, I'm ready for the song change, and the song doesn't change, and then you feel like you're playing catch up. And so after the fact, it always feels amazing. You see the videos, you see how excited people were, you get a few good moments and all that, but in the moment, it's definitely like one of the most nerve-wracking things you could ever do. Because the other thing is, he won't tell you the music he's going to play. He'll barely even tell you if it's going to be an up-tempo or down-tempo or whatever. And even then, like, those labels aren't even really accurate. So, I remember we played a show in Los Angeles, and I was asking him, what songs are we going to play? And he kind of just laughed at me, and he was like, oh, I would tell you the first song, but it doesn't have a name yet. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to know anything going into this set, and like, let's hope I got it. So yeah, I mean, the end was definitely very bittersweet, because I think I got really burned out on playing maybe not like shows so frequently, but just large caliber shows where the crowd is constantly expecting new content and different aesthetics and stuff. It's pretty easy to play a really good set and then say, well, I'm going to reuse this composition for the next few ones. But I don't think I ever felt like I could get away with that at a Tipper and Friends event.
Interesting.
And so it's definitely more exhausting to work those events from like a VJ standpoint. And yeah, I mean, by the end of, it was sad to say goodbye to everyone and have that last show, but I was also very ready to not travel for a few months and
Right. Do something new and
kind of. Yeah, exactly. And the Patreon was something I had been thinking about, and I wanted to put my stuff out there, but didn't feel like I had the free time and all that. So yeah, definitely. I'm hoping we can all get again sometime and maybe do another thing someday. But in the meantime, I'm pretty happy to just be hanging out and seeing my family and
nice, dude.
Creating when I want to create without a looming show that is like, oh shit, I got to get this rendering by Saturday so that it's ready to go by Tuesday.
Yeah. The level of like the bar is set so high for those shows, and I think you're right. Like the audience, and it's a little bit you or whatever, Keith. All you guys' is own fault. You raised the bar so high that the audience was kind of like, their expectation is so high from show to show to show. And Tipper as well, by the way. It's like, the Tipper set from 2019 is the best one. No, it's like Grateful Dead or something, where it's like every show is the best show ever and there's never, a bad show.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of like that culture, kind of melded into that thing. And then, the idea of, and I did want to bring this up later, but we can talk about now, like just being able to work like the legends that the Tipper shows brought into America. Julius, Tass, Android Jones, all of these like these names that are like not really, maybe Android, and Tass, of course, but like, they're not really like Stebbing as well. Martin Stebbing came for like a bunch of shows. There's like the level of quality, or like, level of artistry that is not really usually seen on like a normal show. And I think that was also like a really big thing of it, was just kind of like the way that, the cream of the crop is kind of coming here. And I was super fortunate to do one show with Datagramma. I guess it was 2022 or 3. I don't remember. Maybe 23. And it was such a fun experience being able to see everybody and meet everybody. And yeah, like, I think our level of expectation was low because we were doing like the after sessions and kind of like whatever we do would have been cool. But you could feel like and I mean this with respect, like if you could feel the prying eyes, whether it's from like the other VJs that are there, right, that are all like, nobody's judging, but they want to see cool shit. We all want to see cool shit. And then like all the crowd and everybody's kind of like lying down and getting ready. It's like the bar felt low, but then when the show came, it was like, oh, we got to be like on our on our tippy toes here. That like coming from the psytrance world, I never ever have that feeling. The psytrance world is like, okay, does the mapping work? Is the mapping good? That's the bar. Like whatever comes after, like whatever comes later is like totally up to you. It's very expressive. It's very like flashy, whatever. Every once in a while, you'll have a producer that will come and be like, hey, what are you playing? And you'll be like, what do you mean? Like, you don't like it? Like, look at it. It looks cool as fuck, Like, so, here, take, okay, here, I'll change it, whatever. So I think that kind of like, and I've played with like bands before and like, one-time shows, for high-profile artists where that feeling is there, where it's like, you really have to be on your knees. Corporate theater is like that, where it's like, if you make a little mistake, you could cost the company millions and millions of dollars in their stock and things like that. But it's like, it was an interesting feeling, like at that show, at that Swanee show, of just like, and seeing all you guys and seeing like talking to Keith and talking to Steven and like just the amount of pressure. And I remember Joe also was like under this crazy, it was like, maybe it was his first time playing with Tipper. But the amount of pressure that you could see oozing out of you guys is, it was just like, this is crazy. Like this is, I
think it partially goes back to what we were talking about, where, even my own origin story, where I saw a VJ
Right.
there and was like, oh
Yeah.
wow, like that's super inspirational. I want to look into it. Like I think that's a pretty common experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's just about culture creation, and I
Mm.
think it's because they started doing something so unique. So many people were telling their friends like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Mm.
You gotta check out what they're doing over there. It's not like the other shows you've been going to. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that really is a big part of it. And yeah, the continual one upping, even just between the internal VJs, just trying to
Yeah.
be like, oh, I knew you were gonna like that shit, like,
Yeah.
and on top of Dave being like, all right, well, we had one projector last year, but now we have two. It's
Mm.
that means
High
now you got to work with.
resolution. Yeah.
Right. It's I think it was just a combination of being pushed internally and externally by a lot of different factors. Yeah.
Well, I think it bred a ton of amazing artists that I don't think need the Tipper events to be great artists, and I think that the future is bright, and if people want to take a break, for whatever reason they want to take a break, I think it's super commendable. I don't think anybody should be forced to do anything they don't want to do, and I think at the end of the day, like, the future is bright. Yeah, that's really what it's all
Right.
about,
Right.
And I think that I would imagine that you feel the same. It seems like you do. But yeah, big tap on the back, big handshake, big
Thank
props
you.
to you and all the people involved in those shows. And we'll see what happens in the
Yeah,
future.
I mean,
I think it's not going
I
anywhere.
think, to me, I think the biggest takeaway that I still talk with other Dave and stuff. I think for me, the scene, what I would like to see is that other producers, musicians see what can happen if they put the budget in for live visuals, and really like make that a part of the show and not just like the afterthought
The
of,
afterthought, 100%.
yeah, oh well, we got the LED wall, like let's just
Right.
get the cheapest local VJ.
Right.
I'm hoping that there's some producers in their management that will see what we did and they'll pick up the torch and say, oh well, if we could just get a couple projection mapping artists and a really nice LED wall, like look what's capable.
Yeah. I hope so
'Cause-
too. I think honestly it's going to come from the audience. I think I shouldn't say like that, but I think most producers are not thinking necessarily about that. I think that there's a very thin line between like how much money am I going to, not even like how much money, it's not even a greed thing. It's like somebody's investing $1 million into the event. They have to make their money back and pay that person back. It's
Right.
just the way it is. Or if it's your own
Right.
money, like even more so. So I think that there's a big element of like cost, and like how do we make it cheaper, or how do we make it more affordable, etc. And the very few producers who do care about vision and do care about like how do we make this thing massive and amazing, a very small amount of them know anything. Or I don't mean it
Right.
like that, but a small amount of them know what it is that vision is, right? Like a
Right.
big LED wall is just a very small part of that vision. Or like projection mapping a building is a very small part of that vision. Who's doing it? What is the equipment? Where is the thing? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
All the things down the
Right.
line. And like you said, like other Dave is kind of has that experience. But I think the audience will push it to that direction, because all it takes is $1 million show to have a bad production, bad visuals or not good visuals,
Mhm.
for everybody to be like, that was shit, I'm not going back. And then you're done. Right? Like,
Yeah.
imagine if Tipper came and had a bad set, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe Tipper can do that, but like, anybody else in that lineup, that's it.
Yeah.
People are going to hear
Yeah.
it. People are going to see it. So I think that will come from the audience up. I hope it will. Yeah, I think this is a really good time to jump into your set and see
Cool.
see kind of like what a good production is.
I do have to say that before we jump into this, that because I've been making all these plugins and stuff, I've been kind of rebuilding my live show, and so there's definitely some things that I'm going to be tinkering around with that I've never run in a live setting ever. So
Hell yeah. I'm honored.
So kind of just going to swing for the fences and hope for the best. But Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so we're going to jump into Mr. The Void's computer here. We're going to jump into The Void. Very excited. We have music by, remind me the artist name?
Herbalistic.
Herbalistic, that's right. And we're going to get a pretty awesome peek into The Void, as it were. So whenever you're ready, just take it away.
All right, yeah. This is mostly original content, not all original, but I'll shout out whoever's work I added. And yeah, music by Herbalistic. That's one of my favorite Japanese space-based duos. So let's here we go.
Let's fucking go. Nice. Sick.
These are some new ones I've been working on.
It's sick. Love it.
A little busy there.
Nice. Whoa.
Oh, scary jump.
I love this. Such a nice angle.
Yeah, I love the concept of like infinite regression and things like that.
Yeah, it's super nice. Just such nice renders. These are all in Blender?
These are all Blender, yeah.
Nice, dude.
I'm a crazy person that will let it render for 10 minutes a frame.
Are you making the materials in Blender as well?
Yes, it's all Blender.
Nice. Really nice.
Let's do this.
Sick. So are these synesthesia effects mixed in?
Yes. All of these, if you're looking at my composition, everything that's highlighted is a synesthesia effect that is routed with OSC. It's launched with OSC. And then I have synesthesia sitting at the top of the deck here and also kind of peppered in. But it's just a lot
cool.
of knowing
What works well.
Yeah.
So you're like you're constantly sending spout into synesthesia,
Yeah,
and then like just triggering different effects in Resolume.
Yeah, basically. I used a lot of the synesthesia effects I made. I'm getting kind of a weird angle going on.
Sorry, I'm sorry for like asking too many questions. You get into your flow. I don't wanna bother you too much.
No, you're good. You're good. I feel like the questions are the fun part.
Okay, cool.
Definitely some weird shit going on here. No, that's why. Yeah, so a lot of it's either at the top it's synesthesia effects, and then throughout the content it's more generative type stuff. And it's all kind of set up too, so like I have all this content doubled up so that I can pull in synesthesia as a mask. Say I pull this layer in place, add synesthesia as a mask here, and then I can use my synesthesia output as a mask over the content.
Nice. Super cool.
Yeah, and it's the doubled up content, I think, gives you like a ton of room for experimenting. Oh, clearly my OSC out presets are not fully figured out. This is a little edit of a Time Vision piece. I know you had him on the pod before.
Yeah, shout out.
One of my good friends.
Such a nice dude. Such a nice guy.
Very talented, very smart.
Really super. Sick. Nice colors.
This is an edit of a Shields piece I'm mixing in.
Nice, shout out Chris.
Or, yeah, maybe 8 or 9 Shields pieces all mashed together. That's typically how I do it, though. And this, I think, is an Isosceles one, which I'm pretty sure you've had him on as well.
Yeah, also super nice dude. Shout out.
Never met him, but his content's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of fading to black.
We're getting shifty and melty. I love it.
Yeah, this is actually all footage that I took with my camera.
No way. That's so cool. But yeah, I mean, heavily edited.
Yeah, stylized for sure.
Stylized. It's got like this anime vibe. I love it. Oh, cool.
I don't think I've heard anime vibe, but I'll take it for sure.
Yeah, like some like sci-fi anime vibe. I don't know.
It's definitely a very heavy Blade Runner inspired.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
Ooh, the cow. Gotta have cows.
Oh, that's why. Ooh, I'm missing some of my presets. That's alright. And this is definitely a glass crane edit.
Nice.
Man, let's not do that.
Nice. This is very voidy.
This is a collaboration with Cybernautics.
Oh, nice.
I'm not
I
sure.
love that.
I'm not
I
sure if
love
you've had
Alex.
him on the pod, but
I have.
yeah.
I've had him twice actually. I
Oh,
love
really?
him. I love Alex. He's
I'm the last one, I guess.
Yeah. That's funny. Whoa. Is this a shader? This is a shader for sure, right?
Shader,
Yeah.
yeah.
Super cool.
It's based on a Shane one, if you're familiar with Shane, I believe.
Yeah. I'm not like a huge shader guy, but yeah, I mean that I've heard before, for sure.
Shane is definitely a household name, yeah.
Yeah. It's like such a nice, like almost global illumination vibe, you know, like it's got such a nice feeling to it.
Yeah, and honestly, this is probably one of the coolest things I've done in a Ray March, but I have these like tunnel lights that
Yeah.
can send backwards and forwards.
Right.
And I think that one, it just like really messes with your head in a way that I don't know if I've ever really obtained in another shader.
I love it.
It's all about messing with your head.
Oh yeah. Definitely being messed with right now. Tunnels inside of tunnels inside of tunnels inside of tunnels inside of tunnels.
It's tunnels all the way down.
It's like you have a tunnel and you like the texture of the tunnel is a tunnel, and then like the post-process effect on the tunnel with the tunnel is a tunnel. And I love it.
It makes me think of a show we did at the Mirage when they had that old LED wall.
Yeah.
That was super wide. And we would always talk about how ray marches and stuff wouldn't really fly. The tunnels didn't really work because
It's too
we call them
wide.
side pukers. Yeah, it's too wide. So the perspective camera will give you side pukers on the side.
Right. That's so funny. Now it's even bigger, that screen, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they did with it. I heard they were trying to sell the venue or something.
Ooh, I like this. It's like, is that symmetric vision? No, is that?
Yeah.
It is, right? Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a couple of them for sure.
Nice. Raymond's is a good friend. I actually just spoke to him today. He's such a funny guy.
Is he still making content? I don't think I've seen anything out of him in a minute.
He's having a little bit of a hiatus, but he definitely is. He definitely is, yeah. He's just taking a little bit of a break.
I can respect the hiatus for sure.
Yeah. I like this too. This is beautiful. That's not a shader.
This is not a shader now.
So
this
nice. The texture is so pretty.
Another Blender render.
Oh yeah, let's go. Alien language glyphs. Version 77. Take 30. Glyphs from the nether sphere. Or from the void, I guess from the void. It's a low-hanging fruit there. Yes, the squid. The mighty squid. Damn. It's like a psychedelic squid, like a psychic squid.
The space squid.
A space squid. Nice. Very psychedelic. Damn. Oh yeah. Let's go deep. Wow, that was an awesome set. We had a little bit of sound issues at the end there, so we had to reset. But yeah, dude, such a you have such a great style, and like full understanding of what you're doing, which is I
Thank
guess
you.
not really surprising. But yeah, thank you. That was such a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And those last AI renderings were so nice. Are those yours?
Yeah, thank you. They are. It's nice to hear someone talk positively about some of the benefits of AI. I know there's plenty of negative things that we can talk about, but yeah, those were using Comfy AI with Stable Diffusion 1.5, I want to say, using checkpoints that I trained on some of my own images with my own Comfy UI setup and everything. So
Nice.
it's about as homebrewed as AI can get, I guess.
Yeah, Comfy is great. I've been like building like a Claude like init file, like an MD file that can talk to Comfy through like an MCP, but then like, make workflows, run them, download all the like do everything kind of by itself. And it just made everything so fast because I tried learning Comfy a few times and I just got super I just couldn't get into it. And then whenever you like find cool workflows from people, they never work. You have to go all over the place to make them work.
Yeah.
Even the AI is takes it a while.
Yeah, I will say that once I found something that works, like my setup, you can put in stage vectors to make stuff fit a stage, or you can do
cool.
motion tracking with people. I haven't touched it since I made it because of how
finicky
prone it is to things breaking. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny because the stable diffusion is so dated now when it comes to AI.
Totally.
But I kind of like that. I like the weird mutations and the not fully correct renders that it makes. It's believably unbelievable, which I think is pretty exciting, and it's, I don't know, not really something we could accomplish. I mean, I suppose you could, but it's it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of guessing, I guess.
Totally. And truth be told, a lot of those effects of the morphing and thing back in the day were AI. They were machine learning. It was all style GAN and things like that. So it's kind of just the the next evolution of that. Well, super cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And
yeah, absolutely.
I think so. You're gonna show us a little bit of how the sausage is made here. So just take it away.
Yeah.
Intro.
So I just wanted to take a minute to show off some of the plugins that I was using. I had a lot of synesthesia scenes in there, but some of the more newer Resolume native stuff. Under the hood, I feel like there's a lot going on that you probably wouldn't fully understand just from seeing it live.
Mm-hmm.
This is the whole audio reactive setup that I was talking about earlier. It's very close to synesthesia in terms of what it offers. These are just, it's a lot of just normalized values and stuff, or timers or whatever. And so I think that has been a pretty natural transition for me to move from, making stuff in just synesthesia to making stuff in Resolume and Touch Designer and, whatever else. Because I think a lot of the magic that's a lot easier to do with code, but I've kind of sucked it up when it comes to nodes, is stuff like this. And this, I guess this doesn't really have much meaning just from the face, but it's basically taking inputs from, this is the spectrum, the full level of the audio, this is the hits, and this is the presence of the bass. And it basically combines all of that into one timer that you can control. Wow. So you can basically say how much audio you want going into whatever it's driving, which I think there's a level of complexity there that it's kind of impossible to get with just audio reactivity or just manual controls. I think audio reactivity is one of the best things a VJ can have, because it really, these will bounce around to the bass beat. And so as a VJ, there's a lot of times where it's the song's changing, you're more focused on figuring out what's coming next, but you still want the stuff being interesting on screen.
Yeah.
And so, those audio reaction connections are what drive most of it. And then this is all just controls and then the shader file, which we can look at real quick if you're interested.
Of course.
All right.
I just want to say, Andrew, I love the concept of making unified plugins for multiple softwares. It's such a good idea, and not a lot of people are doing it. And I think it's a really smart way to approach it. So
yeah, cool. Thank you. It is something where I've seen Touch Designer things, and I'm like, man, if I could only run that in Resolume, I'm not going to be pulling up Touch Designer just for this one effect. So yeah, thank you. I hope that other people can, I hope there's a scenario where someone's like, oh, I can load this in Synesthesia, or I could run it in Touch Designer. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
a lot of my plugins are pretty straightforward with the code. Maybe not true for all of them, but let's see here. Um, like this plugin is basically just drawing multiple squares that get moved around the screen. And then from there, it's drawing smaller squares. Like there's an outer square and then an inner square. Um, and it's basically just like using a pixelated version of the texture in between those two squares to draw the feedback. And then you can ripple things and stuff here. It's a little easier if we turn this off. So yeah, we don't have to go too deep into the code, but you know, I think at the end of the day, shaders, while they look really scary, if you approach them with the like, this is what I want to accomplish, and you know, with AI at your side, you can basically create any effect. You know, I think a lot of this would be very doable just in nodes, but it's definitely got to be more performant as a shader. And you know, I don't have the math or the statistics to actually tell you if that's true, but that's just what my gut tells me. And yeah, I mean, there's so much you can accomplish. Let's pull up another one here. So this is one that I think was breaking my audio input earlier.
Oh my god, that was insane.
Because it's pretty heavy. But yeah, I mean, being able to do stuff like this in real time is, I don't know. It's just so much better than a pre-render, in my opinion. And so, you know, this shader, you can see it's a lot of the same with the audio inputs, and then these timers, I suppose, is a good way to put it.
So, just I'm sorry, because you know, this is Wire, which I'm not so familiar with. You're running a GLSL shader inside of Wire, and then using Wire to like control it as like parameters or whatnot. And
Yeah,
activity
pretty
and all that
much.
stuff?
It uses ISF. These
Okay, ISF shaders. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it uses ISF at the core. And yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the audio reactivity is like the most of the like native Resolume stuff that I'm using.
Right.
Right. But this one obviously has a bunch of broken nodes. You can see with the red lines, but
yeah.
I think it just didn't load the file right, or I'm not totally sure, but like a lot of these controls, it's just a control node. It's as simple as right clicking on one of these and just saying expose as input.
So it's like exposed. It's exposed. I get it. But like, so Wire is really geared towards like making a patch that it's like very specific to the environment of Resolume.
Right.
Like it's not like it's node based in the sense of that's the interface, but it's not like a node. It's not like a procedural, or like I don't know, like I don't know. It's not like an environment, right? It's more like, or yeah, I mean, you tell me. I haven't really jumped into it that much.
So I was actually talking with Tennis about this the other night. To me, it feels like if they just took all of the things out of Touch Designer that were relevant to being a BJ, and that's it. Like there's so much stuff in Touch Designer that, you know,
to
if
make
you're
stuff, you
BJ
mean?
patches, yeah, if you're making stuff in Touch Designer, like you don't really need a lot of the you know, the things they have in there, like the connect inputs, or you know, I'm not like the biggest Touch Designer guy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like a Touch Designer is like an environment for media,
Right.
you know, and data,
Right.
And it happens to be node based. You know, it's just that's like
Right.
the interface.
Whereas you know, when I first got into Wire, it felt like it was Touch Designer for children. And I've definitely grown very fond of it, you know, the more I've played with it. And I think it's just the simplicity around it compared to Touch Designer. There's still a lot of things that I get annoyed having to do.
Well, it's new,
it's
right?
nodes.
Oh,
yeah,
you don't like?
and, you know,
do you not like nodes as much?
I do, but then when it comes time, let's see, I don't have one in this file. like those complex scripts I was talking about. Let me pull one up. Those timers with like the audio inputs.
Mm-hmm.
In code, that's like one line. It's
Right.
like 150 characters, and in Resolume or Touch Designer, it's like 15 nodes, and it's like
Yeah.
the amount of times where it's like I just want one math node where I can multiply, add, and divide all in one line.
Right. It's, but
That
I must say you can write expressions, at least in Touch, so you can get to a
right,
point where it could be one node in one line, but then you're obfuscating the point of nodes. Like the point of node is that you can see the thing. Like
right,
expressions are fine in Touch Designer and like node-based systems, but they're a little bit counterintuitive to what the point of a node-based is. But the thing is, like, Touch Designer is not really. It's not a good example of like a node-based environment because it's such a like open-ended environment that happens to be
right,
the front end is a nodes, but like really you could just do anything in Touch, and the cool part is the way it integrates with everything. So like I don't know. I think about it like we were all introduced to nodes through most people through 3D programs, right? Like making
hmm
a material is all node based, in pretty much every DCC. Um, but you're making a material, you're not making an environment to make visual, whatever. It's like the node base is like the non-destructive kind of procedural aspect of it. But Touch Designer is just like anything and everything to do with media input output data,
right,
and the way that you interface with it is nodes. But I mean, like complex systems that I've built with Touch Designer, like environments and stuff like that, or sorry, complex like systems to operate things. It's all scripts. It's all like
right,
but the scripts are in a execute, and the execute is triggered when a chop goes off, or or a
right,
table in the dat changes. So now instead of having to write like a hook or a helper or another script to deal with a callback or whatever, you do have all that, but it's like in this one environment that's like that's node based front facing.
right. Yeah, and I don't think there's a good. I understand why everything needs to be nodes if you're going to go down that route.
Yeah.
Because I do find, I've done some of the scripting in Touch Designer, and it's very confusing, honestly. Just and more so just because it's like, if you have just code, you can follow the code and see where, which function is calling whatever and follow it around. And if it's just nodes, it's like the same thing where you can see what's going in, what's going out. But when you have both, it's like, oh, that script is referring to that other
The
node that
op
it's not
is
even really
referring to an
connected
op
to.
and a
Yeah,
parameter inside
yeah,
of an op. Yeah, it does get crazy, but I feel like at least the minimal experience that I have with creating systems. I mean, all the systems that I create have to do with media and playback, or like just an output on a screen or an output in a thing.
right,
It's like the best place to do it because like you said, like the pure scripting side of that, like synesthesia or whatever, right, is just like, here's your
right,
code for your thing. And then
right,
the other side, the pure node but then when you can marry them together, when it comes to like media and like interface and operation, it's just like all there for you. I don't know, it's like it's a very unique experience to use Touch Designer as like a environment, for media.
right, right. Yeah, I honestly think of using it as a VJ or like for VJ purposes, it's like it's kind of wrong, like you can
Mm,
definitely do it. To me, it's no different than using like After Effects for VJ loops.
right.
There's so much involved that you really don't need.
Mm,
And so I think Wire has become pretty appealing to me because it really is just focused on VJ loops or
mm.
VJ
Right. It's Resolume.
interactivity.
It's meant to
Yeah,
be used in Resolume, right? It's like,
right,
what is Resolume? Video playback, whatever,
right.
media library playback, post process effects.
So let me pull up this one. there's this time riff plugin that I made that to me this is probably the best combination of like Resloom native stuff with a shader. So this one, like, you can see all these melty kind of things moving around, and it's actually, I mean, you can't tell with the static image, but it's sampling different parts of the media at different times. So it's basically, it just has these ring buffers where this is saving it 180 frames, 360 frames, 720. So you can scrub the media back at different parts of the playback, like at will, without having to scrub the actual clip. And so to me, this is probably like one of the most Resloom specific ones I've made. And I know you can do it in Touch Designer too with Time Machine, but like, to me, this is really where Wire becomes powerful, because this is a specific Resloom thing mixed with a shader, which is pretty agnostic to any system, you know?
Right. You can bring that shader into anywhere and hook it up.
Right. So, you know, this one might get a port to Touch Designer, but, you know, the frame buffers don't exist in Synesthesia, so that's kind of where I'm coming from, where this is a very Resloom thing.
Super cool.
Yeah,
really nice effect.
Yeah.
And these are all available on your Patreon.
Yeah, they're all available on Patreon. Some of these are just straight up available for members with no extra cost, and some of the more complex ones are available for an extra cost, but members get a 50% discount. So it's definitely, if you're going to buy one, it's definitely worth it to just sign up for the membership and even cancel right away just to get the discount. But
nice. Hell yeah. Well, don't tell people that.
Hey man, you know, I've done it before. I know people be tight with money, or, you know, everyone's situation is different. So if you want to sign up and support me every month, then, you know, absolutely love to hear it and appreciate it. But if you can only afford one thing and you really want it, then do what you got to do. I don't mind, even if that's sharing with your friends for a month until you can afford it yourself or something.
Oh yeah.
I'm a 90s baby, so piracy, Napster, things like that were definitely
it's important
in my past.
It's important, dude.
I get it.
I don't well, maybe I shouldn't say what I do and I don't, but I you know, torrents are the best. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. I personally feel like if you're going to make money off of it, you should be supporting the people creating it.
Yes. There's a threshold, right?
Right.
It's always like with pirated software, there's a threshold. It's like, definitely pirate it if you can afford it and you want to learn it. But then, like you said, once you're profiting off of it, and that, you know, then it becomes a little bit of a non-fair karma thing, you know, of just like,
right.
You know, if the tables turn. At that point. Especially if it's like independent, you know, if it's like a small company, like if it's Adobe, whatever, you know, like.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for showing us all that really, really nice stuff. And, you know, like you said, like Andrew said, definitely go to check out his Patreon and support him. And thank you so much for that set portion. It was so nice seeing your work and then getting to see how it's kind of made a little bit. And I you know, we kind of spoke about it a little bit now in the last portion of the set, and I don't want to like jump too redundantly into it, but you know, I'd love to hear a little bit more, and please take it to like any direction that you really want to, but like, you know, the idea of like, not nodes versus scripts, but just like, you know, where their strengths are, maybe where their, you know, their weaknesses are, and kind of like how they all kind of tie into the idea of this real-time, you know, non-destructive procedural kind of philosophy, really, you know, or like ideology. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like, the strengths and weaknesses I think really come down to like what you're most comfortable with, what you can visualize in your head that maybe it's connecting this node to another one. Like if you're able to visualize before you do that how it's going to happen, I think that's like the strongest thing you could have.
Totally.
Because I think we all learn just by tinkering, and if you're a really serious VJ, I think you probably enjoy it a bit more than the average person. And so, with code, it took me a really long time to be able to visualize, like, even just like how a line would sweep across the screen based on, like a timer or something like that. And, the more you do anything, the more you're going to be able to visualize it and have that muscle memory and stuff. And so I think really like nodes for me, I just don't like because it's hard for me to visualize stuff. And a lot of times it's like, I know how to do it in code quickly, but when it comes to nodes, it's like, it takes me a minute to like wrap my head around it. And so like, I would definitely encourage people to get into coding just because I think there's less limits involved. But, in terms of what's going to be the best for you to learn, I think it just comes down to like what type of learner you are and how you're able to visualize things, because most of my friends, like the node based setup is what most people want, because we're VJs, we're visual people, usually visual learners is part of it. And so being able to see the output of one node and plug that into another thing, I think is just like the most straightforward. But yeah, honestly, I think everyone should learn to code. I think being able to control a computer, and at least, on a fundamental level, understand like the how and the why, makes like a major difference in terms of just like interacting with these things that basically control our lives, like in every sense. And so, it might just be understanding how, what a texture looks like in C++. Like it might just be understanding the basics of, what a 4-channel texture actually is. Yeah. Or it might be, being able to code your own program. I think, the scale is infinite, honestly. So yeah, I would just encourage people to code, learn to code, get familiar with it, at least learn to read it.
Especially where we are, with AI, we're at like this crazy threshold, and it's only going to go forward for sure. And I can just imagine like a situation where it's like 5 whatever years down the line, everything is going through these kind of like prompts, everything's being generated. If you can stop for a second and be like, hey, is this the right thing that you're doing? Even to this all knowing, like maybe the AI is right. Maybe the AI is right, but being able to know what's going on and, having like some understanding of what's going on, with like what they're doing is super important, And,
I think it's like a technology literacy thing, at least in the beginning. Yeah.
It's like if you're going to get into design, you should have some understanding of color theory, right? Even like the simplest basic thing of a wheel and compound colors, like just knowing that is going to help you, or like, text fonts or something like, typefaces or something like that. So yeah, I think because the world is shifting so heavily towards this, code-based prompting AI situation, it's going to be super important, understand it.
And on top of that, like I said, the possibilities are endless with code, and so it might even be a thing where, like I was saying with synesthesia, where it's a software I liked and I saw a bug and I was pretty certain I knew how to fix it, even though I didn't, I'd never seen their code base or anything. Like I think that is like part of it too. This noise eraser app I've been jamming on with Glass Crane. It's the power of being able to be like, well, I don't like the way this works. Like maybe we should just change that. Like that's a power that like, most people, it's like, oh, Facebook redesigned their interface and now I'm annoyed with like where this button is. And like,
I never thought about it. That's so
Yeah, I'm
interesting.
not
Like
saying you can like rebuild Facebook, but
right.
you're empowered to do whatever you want if you understand code.
No, it's such a prompt like thing, like being able to change anything, like the yeah, I don't need this feature, I want this different feature, even just like what buttons you want to see, right? Or like yeah, it's
Right.
very it is very like freeing in that sense, and even for like
Right.
you understand it to a much deeper level than I do, but just having that ability of being able to do that is very unique, and the speed that it's happening at now.
Right.
Kind of speaking about like where we are now as like a society or whatever, and like the complexity of where this AI is taking us all. You mentioned like when you were a kid, and I think obviously now as an adult as well, you love the nature, and you love like being outside and kind of touching grass, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like usually the approach to this conversation comes from like the idea that all the math that we use and all the noises that we use come from nature, and how cool that is. But I'm kind of interested to, a little bit about just what as a kid, that pull to be outdoors and things, and experience outdoors. That's a very I think unique thing. It's kind of going away in a way,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, growing up close to the mountains definitely was like a big reason I was such an outdoor kid.
Mm,
My parents didn't want to get, cable TV and stuff like that, and kept telling us just to go outside.
nice.
But I definitely think that was kind of the genesis of like my, I don't know, natural curiosity when it comes to like a lot of things in the world. Um, I always make the joke that the Earth is the most psychedelic thing that could ever exist, like because it is. It's just the fact that we're here and we're talking through the internet and all of this stuff. It's like it's really absurd when you like look at it abstractly.
Mm,
Um, and so I think there's just like a lot of things in nature that, yeah, I mean, it's, like you said, the noise patterns are all based on, things we see in real life.
mm,
But on top of that, just like the bizarreness that nature can produce and stuff, and, how evolution just, everything evolves into a crab. Like there's so many things in life that like, when you think about it, it's like so strange, but we all just kind of accept it as like, yeah, this is what life is. Like, what do you mean? And so I think I try and carry a lot of that into like my inspiration.
mm.
Um,
Beautiful.
just like, yeah, just the general sense of like, all of this is crazy, and we should probably, appreciate it more than we do.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Do
there's
you?
a.
No, please.
I was just gonna say, there's a author that I love named David Foster Wallace, and he has this.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you know him. He has
Yeah.
a speech called "This Is Water," which I think was uh, like a acceptance speech at a
Okay.
college graduation or something like that. But I would highly recommend looking it up, because it's basically all about how like life is crazy, and our automatic response is to basically just go about our day and be frustrated at traffic or whatever. But like the
Mm.
more you think about it, the more you're like, wow, it's kind of amazing that we are just here and doing our thing and all that.
Yeah.
uh,
It's focusing on the moment, focusing on the present.
hmm
These are the keys to whatever wellness or well-being of some sort, or even just like feeling good, and not having intrusive thoughts, or
right.
or focus. Like I have a child, so I'm always kind of like thinking about the future, just kind of.
hmm
I can't avoid it because of this little thing here that's growing all the time. But I always have to remind myself that like a lot of thoughts of the future are just stories, right? They're not the
right.
actual thing of what's going on right now, like nature, or just like the coolness of everything happening at this moment right now. Like the future is, it's I can tell myself stories, I can tell myself these ideas, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's not that. It's not there yet. It's not.
Right.
I'm here now.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a really apt point.
Yeah.
And nature. I mean, I live in the mountains. I grew up in pretty rural area, and there's something about that feedback that you get from nature that is so pure, or simple, or like maybe not simple, but like balanced. There's no. I always say this, there's no good or bad in nature. It just is. And when you kind of are around that, then you kind of get that feedback as well. You get that mirror thing of just is. In the city, there's so many things going on. You can focus, and you can, really get your attention onto things for sure. And sometimes in the city, actually, you can get even like, deeper. You can sink your teeth in deeper in a sense, because there's so much. You can really like focus that beam, but most of the time it's, and when you don't even know that you want to have a chill moment. You don't even know, because there is,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, society and, modern life, there's, many amazing things to it, but there is a distraction every single place you look if you let it be one.
Yeah.
And something that, it's funny, my dad and I talk about this all the time when we're camping, is just like, imagine being here 10,000 years ago. Like, this is all you would be doing. You would have found your food, you would have made your fire, and then it's like, okay, well, let's stare at the stars for 8 hours, and what else are we gonna do?
And every day.
Yeah, there's nothing else going on. So I think just taking time to appreciate that and slow down, and like disconnect from the disconnectedness. That makes sense.
Totally.
That I think for me that there's really nothing, like, you have to go into nature. That's basically always been my viewpoint.
Yeah, I think it's super important, and it does tie into psychedelics for sure. Like I think you said it really well before. Like, this is the trippiest thing.
Right.
A big lesson that I have received from ceremonies and just from like native teachings is the original, not drug, but the original psychedelic experience is like breath. And you can see this. You could see this in modern society with Wim Hof and a lot of breathing techniques and things like that. But that's like the real like essence of the psychedelic experience is in the breath. It reminds you of like what is a psychedelic experience. It's not necessarily the most vivid, trippy thing or the most crazy, funny thing or something. It's really like being kind of like put back to yourself in like a very in like a clean way, and like acid or DMT, like when you go to these crazy places, I always felt like the biggest lesson was when I came back to reality and had that juxtaposition of of this wildness and then the baseline.
Yeah, it's funny. I tell people that my most psychedelic experience I've ever had was eating a Carolina Reaper. Because it swells up your sinuses and stuff so much that like you have no vision, you have no hearing, you're sweating so hard that it's like difficult,
and you feel like you're gonna die.
You feel like you're gonna die. Like it really pushes you inwards, and like
That's
it causes
crazy.
all this like, self-reflection and stuff. And like, I mean, I don't think I would ever do it again, but yeah, I think a psychedelic experience is really more about your own experiences, being pushed so far outside of your own experiences that when you come back to your own experiences, you have like a whole new frame of perception and appreciation for them, maybe.
Yeah, appreciation is a huge one, right? And like
Right.
sometimes to get that appreciate, like it's so apt, and like like, you know, you lose everything to appreciate, you know, the opposite of the grass is always greener, right? Like the grass is always greener, but if your house burns down, then, you know, who cares about grass, you know, like
The grass could be browner. That should be the same.
the optimistic view of things, the pessimistic view of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love, and you still go camping with your dad a lot? You do try to like be as much as you can outside?
We try and have a plan a trip every year. So that you shouted out the cow in my one visual.
Yeah.
That was actually a trip we took to the Alps in Italy a couple years ago.
Oh, hell yeah.
Did some hiking there. Yeah.
Beautiful place.
So,
absolutely beautiful.
you know, he's getting up there. He's almost 70, but we still try and do, you know, at least one trip a year.
Nice.
Because, you know, there really is nothing better than sleeping out in the woods, honestly.
Definitely, especially in the Alps.
Yeah.
Does he come to your shows? Has he been to your shows before?
He came to Red Rocks. He came to the last one.
Nice.
My parents.
Hell yeah, dude.
My brothers come to a few shows. My sister, she also came to Red Rocks. She lives up in the mountains in Colorado, so they got to experience the whole thing before it was over. And
hell yeah.
Yeah. So siren too loud. Yeah, so you know, it was nice that they were able to come before it was all done, because I think for the longest time they kind of thought it was a joke until that first Red Rock show we played, and then they were like, "Oh wow, like you're actually doing stuff." I've been to Red Rocks.
I've heard of Red Rock, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
You must be legit.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's all right. Everyone understands things on their own timeline, so
for sure. And you know, it's like they don't have to understand what you're doing to be proud or like you know, supportive and see. But it is nice when you get that clarity of like, I'm like legit, like, yeah, okay, drugs and visuals, whatever, but like, look, it's like it's real.
People appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about event production, because
Okay.
I kind of know that you mentioned it on your website is like a, you know, something that you do. Yeah, I mean, like, just we kind of mentioned it before, actually, a little bit about Other Dave and you know, kind of their approach to you know, collaborating with the artists, or you know, at least getting their feedback in some way. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about that. And, you know, as there's this void being left by Tipper, you know, event production or events in general, you know, are an interesting kind of like place to be thinking about, especially as artists, right. You know, that we kind of know the needs and you know, the ins and outs of those things.
Right.
And adding to that like we're in this kind of like post-COVID world where, you know, nobody really gives a shit about events anymore. But at the same time, the people that do care about it so much, you know, it's like kind of branching off or something. I'm not really sure. It's like a very strange thing.
Yeah, I feel like we're in like a weird point right now for live music. It feels like it's, you know, maybe growing pains, or, you know, maybe there's a massive shift underway because AI artists become the next big thing. You know, it's I don't think I can put my finger on it specifically. But I do think, you know, the corporatization of everything, you know, it's proliferated into every little facet of our life, and I think music festivals and stuff are really no different, sadly. Same with artist management and stuff like that. So like, sadly, I feel like we've seen the quality of a lot of events go downhill, partially because of that, but I also feel like part of it is because it's the post-COVID world, and, you know, people are maybe a little less willing to just be throwing their money at a ticket in a city they don't live in, you know, 4 months from now. So I think it's just at this weird spot where the local scene is like kind of going under a revival. That's like the way I've seen it, where people either realize that they need to completely change the way they operate, or, maybe they just haven't made money in the last few shows and then they decide to call it quits or whatever. I think we're just at a point where people need to, their expectations need like a pretty radical shift.
Yeah.
Because in terms of VJ culture, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. I think the audience needs to be the one demanding the change to happen.
Totally.
Because I've talked with my VJ friends, many times in the past about how they get these lowball offers that don't even include travel or anything.
Right.
And you see people online being all stoked that so and so VJ is booked, and then meanwhile I hear from them and they're like, yeah, they're only giving me $500 and it's going to cost me $300 to fly there.
Yeah.
And
what the hell?
And I see the disconnect there, and I'm just like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, everybody who's going to the event to see the cool visuals.
Yeah, and the other thing is we're in an Instagram society at this point where, I've talked with other Dave about this a number of times, but people are more interested in posting things to their social media to show that they were there and they were doing something interesting, as opposed to doing something interesting. Just
that's
for
right.
the sake of experiencing
That's
it.
right. That's
and
right.
so I think VJs have never been more appreciated and sought after because of that. But at the same time, the corporatization of the festival industry, the management sees it as an extra cost. And it's like, well, why are we going to spend all this money on that? We just spent $4,000 on an LED wall. Why are we spending another $2,000 on a VJ? Can we just throw in $500? And, you and I would hear that and we'd be like, well, that's crazy. Why are you spending so much on something to display something amazing and then
have not any
not shit up there? Yeah,
of course. Yeah, it's really it's interesting. I was thinking about Anima and all those shows where the whole crowd have their phones out, and they figured it out because they're basically a one-stop. They're a production company, a content creation studio, and a tech. They have all the equipment. They own all the fucking equipment, and that's how you do it.
Right. And so, I think, they're a great example. They're doing stuff on the bleeding edge. And
now they're super massive. There's so many people working there, but yeah.
Right.
No, it's a super corporate thing.
And so it's just interesting to see stuff like that, really take off and see the reaction on social media and stuff. And then simultaneously I hear my friends, getting gypped for $200 because the management company, went back on what they said about how much they're going to pay them and stuff like that.
Yeah. So annoying to hear that stuff.
I don't know what the answer is. I thought about it a lot.
I don't bring this up a lot, and I feel like you're a good person to talk to about it. When I, the VJ scene in Israel, when I left Israel, was at the point where we basically had a unification of the the OG VJs, the middle of the line, and the beginners, and there was a group, and it still exists, and basically there was a minimal amount of money that you would say no to or yes to or whatever. Yeah, you would say yes to, and if the producer wasn't willing to pay that, even at the beginner level, you just said no, and it created this very understanding of what a minimal is. It's a different type of experience because it's a smaller country, but right. Even though it's a smaller country, there's so many events, so the market is flush. And by the time I left there was no party without visuals. You couldn't do a party without visuals, and you're talking about 5 or 6 parties a weekend, especially in the summer. Wow. So basically what I'm saying is when I came here and started seeing getting I've been friends with Keith for a long time and a lot of other VJs kind of friendly with, so I had a little bit of familiarity. But when I actually came here and saw the way that people are getting paid and gypped, like you said, but more of the way that the VJs were talking about that experience. And this is already 5 years ago. I made a very big a stink about everything, because I said this is the way you change it is you make these minimals. You have a group in every city of all the VJs, and VJ's like, hey, this producer just tried to get me for 500. Nobody take it, or
Right.
on those lines, and you create this like unified thing. Everybody was kind of like against it, and I kind of realized in retrospect that the scene is so different here 5 years ago than it was in Israel 5 years ago. And the market, and also the American mentality, like you said, this kind of like capitalist society is very strong. Because you have people that really just want an opportunity. They want to just play, and that's totally legitimate.
Right.
Such a legitimate thing. Like, I don't care if I'm getting $100. I don't care if I'm doing it for free. And I totally get that. Especially in like a saturated market where there's so many people and there's not a lot of events that do visuals. I get that. But it did create 5 years down the line the situation that we're in right now, where now that there's no the tipper event where where the wages were like a legit wage, and like anything under that is like not a legit wage unless you're the 10 VJs that played at the tipper events, you know what I'm saying, or like whatever. Let's maybe more than that. There's a huge problem, and like even the events that, and I'm not going to name any names, but even the events that have VJs curating, which is the best place, right? Because once the VJ's curating, then they have the communication with the production. They can explain to them the situation. They can force certain restrictions or minimums. Even so, that you have VJs in these positions, the minimums are so bad, and there's still this kind of like back and forth that needs to be done of like flights and simple fucking travel things, and it's not to their fault. It's just that production is so those productions are still at this place of like penny pushing it, not they think that they did like a check mark by having a VJ be the curator, but that's like just a small step towards like actually being in that position. So anyway, I guess my point is that like I think really the best way to do it is just to kind of like unify as all the VJs in your city, make it small, whatever, and kind of like create this thing, and not like shun somebody who takes the cheap gig, but just communicate with them and educate them of like, hey, join us. You want to play? I'm doing a party next week. Come with me and help me with my thing, and you could play for a little bit. Like that's how I started. I went and joined my mentor and played there, and then it was like, okay, I can do this, and so I see the need, but I feel like the shift has to happen from the ranks, from within ourselves, because it's not going to happen from even the crowds asking for it. Result in either like sure, we'll bring we'll bring Keith, but then and that's good and that's fine, but he doesn't even want to do it anymore, so whatever. But like it doesn't move the needle, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess that's why I say I don't know the answer, because I was one of those people that took the super low
we all were
gig just to get my foot in the door, and I wouldn't tell anyone that was in the same position not to do that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think especially in a city like Denver, I think a VJ union, so to speak, where people just talk about rates and which promoter is trying to lowball them and stuff like that, or treats them poorly. I think it's something that has to come from all sides, because then at the same time you have the attendees, and they might not understand that this $30 show that they just paid for has a VJ that got super lowballed, and I think there's like some education maybe that they need to understand that if they pay a $50 ticket, then they're getting VJs that are actually taken care of, and who are probably do it full time and stuff like that.
I think that's totally valid, and it's a more nicer approach, right? Like how do we communicate to the producers for them to communicate to the audiences, for the audiences to then understand the situation, you know what I mean? Like bridge it all together, I think is definitely a much nicer way of doing it. I'm Israeli, so I'm just like, fuck everybody, we'll just do it ourselves. uh, but yeah, I think things will change. I just think naturally, even just like with the aspect of like a lot of the legacy VJs, like yourself and Keith and Tenorless, and even like even some of like the maybe like newer generation legacy people, like Last Crane or David, are really kind of like, we all understand this thing, and I think it's just gonna like naturally kind of fall into place in a way, even if that means like you're not doing live shows anymore, or
Right.
the Keiths are charging such a high price, which they should, that he'll do his gigs, and and whoever can afford it, that's fine. And that makes room for something else. But it's just like, that's like a not the best outcome necessarily, but hopefully it will just be like a growing pains, like you said, and things will kind of like work their way around. I mean, I was telling you as well, I did a Psytrance party this weekend, and I've been trying to like work with this production company for like since I came to America, but they never wanted to pay. And even maybe I shouldn't go down this path, but like it was always like it never worked out, right? And at some point I kind of put my foot down, and I was like, sure, we can do it, but this is it. And they said yes, and it was a success, and the people went to the production and to me and were like, wow, this is amazing, I've never seen this before. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's available. It's out there,
Yeah. And I think part of it is, sadly, there's just got to be like a lot of people that like, lose, and they throw a show thinking they can put a cheap VJ budget together, and they want the projection mapping and the whole nine, but they don't understand everything that goes into it. And maybe they take a loss a couple of times and say, well, hey, I should just stop throwing shows, this is not working out for me. Like, sadly, I think there needs to be a lot of that for the whole ecosystem to rise, because eventually people are going to start saying, well, the Anima, like, why isn't this show like Anima? Like, the tickets are so expensive. Like, they said there's going to be VJs, but like, we got the Walmart version. So I think there just needs to be, it's just time just needs to pass by. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. And people are going to start saying like, man, those tipper events, like, they really, put things together well. Like, why haven't we seen something like that in a while? I think it's going to be a combination of that and like what you were saying, where we kind of all need to band together and put our foot down and stop saying, $200 is fine because I already wanted to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or throw our own events. I think that's also something that's happening a lot more. And it's difficult for some, doesn't always work out. You're going to have to, any event, you're going to have to take a loss for the first few. You have to work that in. But I think the more artist powered events, that's going to trickle down,
Right.
with whatever growing pains there are there. I mean, not every artist is a good event producer either. That's also a reality.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I mean, I think the reason why the Tipper and Friends events were so popular is because it was a grassroots thing.
Right.
There was no corporate interests involved. And, as Dave Veller put it to me once, we did this events for them. The corporate events do them for us. Like, that's the distinction. Is, I remember the first one I went to, every wristband had VIP on it. And for like the first day, I was like, did they give me the wrong wristband? And then I realized that, and I was like, wow, like, they really treat everyone like equally here. Like, that's pretty amazing. But it's not the type of thing you would see at a, Insomniac event or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess maybe kind of reaching an end point here, even though I love talking to you, dude, and we could talk for hours for sure. Kind of, I guess this is a dual question, and again, take it wherever you want. The idea of the idea of the human condition. We're kind of talking about what we're talking about right now is kind of the human condition, right? Like it is that from multiple different facets and aspects, but it all comes down to like the way humans behave and respond and
Right.
react.
Right.
And like, you know, the like the essence of that, right, is something that I think that we're all kind of trying to comprehend or understand, you know, and then maybe some of us through art are trying to express.
Mhm.
And you know, I guess my question is like, what is your essence of the human condition, like for yourself, even like, you know, you write about you spoke about, you go cycling, you go camping. I've seen you talk about you know, your plants and your pets, and you know, you have this affinity towards the things that are meaningful to you. So yeah, like just maybe on like a positive kind of like closing a little bit of, you know, what is that essence to you?
Man, that's a good question. I think what you know what it everything comes down to it for me is, you know, the things that I personally find interesting, the things that I want to pursue, just, you know, throwing myself headlong into that and seeing what comes of it. You know, I've had many careers in my life. You know, I feel like I've experienced a lot of things. I've traveled, like all that stuff, and I think the things that consistently move me is like what becomes the most important. Um, and like sometimes that's just, you know,
Hmm. I
painting
love
to
that.
help process emotions, or, you know, I have a pet lizard that I'm absolutely obsessed with, and
What
his,
kind
you
of
know, might
lizard?
just be, it's a bearded dragon.
Oh,
His name
nice.
is his name is Balthazar. Yeah, he's very
Oh, hell yeah.
real. Um,
I love it.
but yeah, I mean, you know, and I think the thing is like it's easy to think about that from the first person perspective. But you know, I like to say that absolutely nothing you do is in a vacuum. Like
Mm,
everything you do is going to affect someone in some way.
beautiful. Mm,
And so I think just like carrying yourself and moving through life with that mentality and like understanding like, hey, if I step out in the road when the light is red, like that could ruin someone's day because they might have to swerve around me. Like, you know,
mm,
it's, I think just like walking through life with the mentality of like, I'm just one of many that are also navigating this like crazy, scary, confusing thing we call life. Um, it just makes it all more enjoyable, I suppose, and more like manageable. And it kind of makes you feel like not alone in the things that make you feel alone. Like
totally.
whatever it is you're going through. And so I feel like at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's just a matter of leaving everything better than you found it, no matter like what
Wow.
that is. And so I like a lot of the stuff I try and devote my time to, I think is in that essence.
Hmm. Wow.
You know, just what can you do to benefit someone else, even if it's like, you know, 20 minutes they find a little app you made online and they're like, oh, that was like really fun to play with. You know, we're all in it together, and I think it really just comes down to how you want to affect the world, because ultimately how you affect the world is how it affects you.
Yeah.
Um,
Be the change you want to see in the world, or be
right,
the
right.
positive light you want to see in the world, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I think the golden rule is the golden rule for a reason.
Hmm.
Um, you
What's
know,
the golden rule?
I think if treat others the way you want to be treated,
Okay, 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 okay.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, the golden
Yes.
rule. And I
Praise
think if we
Jesus,
all,
baby.
I think if we all just, you know, kept that in mind a little bit more, like, you know, life would be so different for all of us. You know, and it might just be a matter of apologizing to someone after you lashed out at them because you were having a bad day. But, you know, it's the little things do matter. Like, you
Mm.
know, every little thing adds up to something bigger.
Yeah.
Every small moment adds up to something bigger.
Even on like a scientific level, right? Like what we know
Mhm.
about chaos theory, quantum theory, butterflies, all that stuff.
Right. Right.
Actually, I just remembered the golden rule, like do unto others what you want to do unto yourself, is actually from the Old Testament. I just remembered. Jesus did.
Oh, okay.
Jesus was a big proponent of that too, but he learned it from us. Okay. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. I feel
I'm
like.
just joking. I love Jesus. I'm a big fan. Where I lived in Israel, the last place that I lived was the Galilee, and like that was where he
Okay.
was there, and like I felt his presence all the time. Not like
Cool.
the Jesus or whatever, but like the idea of that thing.
Right. Right.
There was
This
a church.
situation.
We lived in a small town, and there's a forest right next to the small town that you could like walk into, and in the forest there was a monastery of monks, of not monks, of nuns, of like these these old French nuns, and they had like a church in the nunnery that is in like a cave. Like you basically like it's like a little like shack, and then you kind of like walk in and you walk down into like this crazy cave that's a church with like benches and an altar, and and they say that Jesus like did a bunch of stuff there,
Interesting.
so it was cool. Yeah, I felt him a lot there. It was a cool
Yeah.
place.
I'm not exactly a religious person, but I do find a lot of appreciation in all religions. The older they are, the more interesting I tend to find them.
Yeah.
Because that they all sort of have the same message, and I think
Definitely.
it's probably from days before enforcing laws was even possible. But again, it just comes down to treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, it's golden rules. It really is. It's almost like and I'm way less of an atheist than this is gonna make me sound, but like it's kind of like even the laws of nature, right? Of like cause and effect, right? Or just like there's no light without darkness, etc. Like these like real truths that are like proven as scientific things. And added to that quantum, like entanglement, all these things that are connected. To me, my like religiosity or my spirituality is like emphasized with that knowledge and that understanding, because I can take those concepts that are very like not like like mathematical or cold, and I don't have to understand the math. I just understand the concept, and I'm like, oh, that's
Right.
that makes sense to me in terms of like a reincarnation or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
I like reincarnation as an idea. How does it work? I don't know. But do I feel like there's some aspect of like my DNA that is also like some sort of ancestral kind of like thing that's kind of like always ongoing? Like it makes sense to me. That's how DNA
Right.
works and evolution works, and it's all this kind of like imprint, right? And then so yeah, my point is that like I just love that kind of like thought of like I don't need to be religious to think about the world in like a spiritual way, and spiritual maybe is not even
Right.
like the right word, but like esoteric way, or like just what is it more than just like the whatever the mathematical function or like the scientific explanation.
Right. Yeah, I think, I love to say that our brains are like really bad at thinking, because they kind of are. They're really good at what's in front of them, but we're really bad at conceptualizing things that we don't really understand. And there's definitely a lot of things in life that, it's a fourth dimensional thought for our three-dimensional brains. And I think things like what you were just talking about, or like, deja vu, or the feeling of someone looking at you across the street. Like there's so many things in life that it's like, you're never going to have an explanation, but you can accept that it's a truth, and that it's something that we all experience, and like live your life accordingly. And I think going back to what we were talking about, the golden rule is like one of those. You might not feel it in the immediate moment, but like I've definitely witnessed
you
more
just
than
know
that,
it
where
to be true. It's like in your essence.
If you put out something, like you should just understand it'll come back.
Yeah.
Another
one of those things is like the flow state. I've talked to so many people about this, like because it's like a collective consciousness moment. Like these ideas, they're not really from you; they're from somewhere else, and you're like in the flow state. You're able to like almost like you don't think about the things that you're doing, but you're doing the craziest shit ever. Like
Right.
sports, athletes are a great example of that, right? Like, but even we are also a good example of that because you're doing this like tons of like these computer stuff things, but it's like amazing and it's like all in like this kind of like, one small thing that's off could change it. And it's like,
Right.
and it always feels to me like you're not really there, but you're like super there almost, like you're so in it that you're not actually doing anything. And like the actual doing is from somewhere else.
Right.
You're like a vessel almost of some sort. I don't know. I don't always feel like that in flow states, but sometimes maybe with heavy psychedelics. But like,
I tell people that my best sets are the ones I don't remember because that's when you really hit the flow state and you're like not forming memories because you're literally just like existing and moving. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I guess also like you don't even have to be on drugs. Like just festivals kind of make that. The
Right.
all the energies going around.
Right.
Well,
So
what were you gonna say?
yeah, I was just gonna say, just to cap it all off. I mean, I think the human, like, if you're listening to this, you should just keep going. I think that's the one thing I try and remind myself over and over and over is that, it is an ebb and flow. Life is great and it's terrible, and a million different ways all at once. And so whatever it is, like, just keep moving, and you'll find your nirvana or Valhalla or whatever that looks like to you. You'll find it.
Amen. I love that. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. It was so nice to get to know you more and see your work in action. Is there anything you'd like to kind of say before we go?
No, I think thanks for having me. That was definitely great. I hope that crazy static sound didn't throw everyone off.
No, don't worry. They don't even know about the static sound.
Okay.
It's between me and you, baby. That was a good one. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Manus Smash for the intro and outro music. Thank you to Sophie Holder for the amazing internship helping us with all the episodes. And thank you to the guest for coming on and spending time with us. See you next week.